Today's video, we are going to be sharing with you our thoughts on some of the questions that we get regarding relationships. So the very first one that we have gotten a few times would be our thoughts on being in a relationship with someone who has a different religion. I'm not going to go into specifics, but just basically you're Christian and your partner is Muslim, or you're Buddhist and your partner is Christian, how much does the conflict of religion affect the relationship, basically? That is the inquiry. And so what's your opinion?
What's my opinion? Look now. It always depends on the person that you love, right? If you love a person, that should be the most important sort of sign and feeling first of all, right? So if you have very strong feelings for somebody, regardless of where he or she is from, that should be the most important one. Now, of course, you can't deny that religion is very, very important in somebody's lives. It can be very influential in your life, of course. A lot of views you might have are obviously based on your religion. I think that it can work. I don't believe it's a definite no, that you should only stick to your religion. But of course, I think it depends on how strong and how strongly you're practicing your religion. If somebody's open in their religion to, this is my belief, but I accept yours as well.
I think it's tricky, but I also think that it's something that people tend to overlook, because when you're in the initial phase of we're young, everyone promises that the other religion is not going to be conflicting. But I mean, when I went to university in England, I did have a friend who had a Muslim father and a Christian mother, and of course they told themselves it wouldn't be a problem, but over the years, I mean, when the children started coming, you have a situation where one parent believes that the children should practice that religion. So he would have his dad take him to the mosque on Friday, and he would have his mom take him to church on Sunday. And I think that is something that is very confusing for a child. I really do think that.
Yeah.
And I agree with you in terms of it could work, but I think the most important thing is always how strong do you feel about that religion, and are you willing to be open-minded to the other religion?
Lastly I think the key there is honesty in the beginning of any relationship, right? So if you're in that situation, or you've been in this situation, you might know this, but it is just so essential that from the very beginning you're very, very open of what you expect. If it's very important to you and you can't believe your children, for example, going to a mosque, or your children going to a church or anything like this, you have to say this in the beginning. Don't be blinded by sort of the butterflies, which is very difficult. It can work, but it's very important that you're honest from the beginning.
I do have a lot of Muslim friends, and I know that as a Muslim guy, if you do get married to a Christian woman, she doesn't have to convert her religion, but once she has children, the children automatically are Muslim. And I mean, it works out for people. It does, because the woman is willing to let that happen. But if you have someone who is very, very strong in her belief as a Christian and you overlook it, it's going to affect the children. So basically, the bottom line is it can work, but you have to be honest with yourself and share with your partner.
I think.
Share with your partner how strongly you believe in your religion. Before you go any further, because it could potentially be a problem in the future.
So the next question we received quite a lot is regarding violence in relationships. So there were situations where a woman is in a relationship with a man, their boyfriend, fiance or husband, doesn't really matter, and they say that generally they're in a very loving relationship. They love their husband, their boyfriends are very good to them, but they have those moments, let's say, when they sort of turn a little bit aggressive and have occasionally hit them, and they're really confused what to do. On the one hand, of course, when that happens, they immediately just want to leave, or they've already actually at some point packed their bags and kind of were about to leave, but somehow they always ended up back in the relationship. So that was sort of the question that we were given, and we feel very strongly about that, and I think it's a very, very clear opinion of ours, at least, that if you're in an abusive relationship, right, and whether this is just like a little slap, as some of the women described it, but he only hits me a little, it doesn't matter. that shouldn't happen. I just feel like, violence in general, no matter what way, is just not okay.
Yeah, and I just want to make something clear to begin with. Like, violence in a relationship, of course, the cliche is that it's the man who is violent. But you do have relationships where the woman is violent as well. Yeah, there are women who physically abuse their husband, and not just even verbally. They verbally abuse their partners. And you have women who are so dramatic and causing all the problems, insulting their husbands in public. Of course, the provocation is there. No matter how much you are provoked, I just think as a man or as a woman, lifting up your hand to physically abuse your partner is just not acceptable.
It's an absolute no-go. I think that the problem often is when, in those situations at least, that there is some sort of dependency. And again, if anybody is in such a situation, just try to figure out, okay, what really keeps you there? What is the sort of why do you feel dependent, and why do you feel reliant on your partner that makes you still stay at the end of the day repeatedly, right?
Yeah, personally, if this situation happens in a marriage, let's just say you didn't know this about your partner, and then you get married, probably a year later, they become physically abusive. I think that it is worth sorting out, like, having a chat. If you need to see a therapist, if you need to talk through what happened, talk about the situation that led to the violent attitude, it's worth talking things through and giving the other person another chance. If it's just a relationship like boyfriend, girlfriend, I will not even think twice, okay?
Please, if you need any help, just call Adanna. She will come over and sort you out.
I just think like you're not even married to me. You haven't even committed to spend the rest of your life with me, and you're physically abusing me or verbally abusing me. Why? There is no reason to be in that relationship. And the good thing is they're showing you their attitude before you commit to a lifetime, because some of the people who are in abusive relationships, the signs have been there from the beginning, but you chose to ignore it. I think people show their true colors, especially if you've been in a relationship for over a year, before the whole marriage thing, like the dating process. Long enough, your partner will show you who they are. So it's up to you to pick up signs like that before you get into a long-term violent arrangement or whatever. So I wouldn't. It's a no-no. I wouldn't advise anyone to remain in an abusive relationship. And in some instances, when this happens, I would advise that you should surround yourself with friends, family who you trust, and be honest to them. Like, tell them what really happened, and they will give you their honest opinion. Try to distract yourself to prevent going back to that partner, because people just run right back to the situation they came back from, and then a few years down the line they start complaining. But overall, our opinion is a no to violence. No.
So another topic that comes up quite often is regarding doubts in your relationship. So people asking us, I've recently started to have my doubts, maybe if I should still be together with my partner and so forth, and due to different reasons. One thing I would say is that I think people, when people go through maybe a difficult time, either together with their partner or in regards to the relationship, so let's say there are a couple of fights, or there's been a difficult decision in your lives, and maybe you don't quite agree, that they tend to often, especially maybe when it's still a little bit of a younger relationship, immediately doubt the whole relationship itself. And is this the right thing? Is this really the partner I want to be for the rest of my life with together, and so forth. And I think maybe our thought here is really, rather than doubting the whole relationship per se, really try to figure out sometimes why you're feeling this way. We all know this. This is just some like a weird feeling inside your stomach. You just don't quite know why. So really try to sit down, take some time, think exactly what has caused, or what is causing this feeling you're having. Maybe it was a particular fight the weekend before, or a particular thing your partner said, and you're not happy with it, but you haven't yet addressed that maybe. So so rather try to identify the real problem. Try to solve that problem rather than making yourself feel so miserable and questioning the whole relationship itself.
Yeah, I think all these doubts normally come when, particularly after a fight or a huge argument. And of course, it doesn't also help with like the social media craze now. So you have a fight with your partner, and then you go on Instagram or Facebook and you see that your friends or people are posting pictures of their relationship that is so happy and so perfect, and then you start to doubt yourself and doubt your partner and think, okay, is this the right relationship for me? I want to be like these guys. You know, normally if everything is fine in your relationship and you are having doubts, it could be that the relationship is not the right one for you. So just don't get up and walk out of a relationship because you're feeling a certain way at that time. Yeah, basically.
Absolutely.
The last thing that we will talk about today is conflict resolution in a relationship. I think that often people underestimate the power of listening. Okay, just keeping your mouth shut and listening to your partner. People
Really, is that so? Wow.
No, David, I started doing that.
Okay.
I started keeping quiet to listen. When you do if you've had an argument or something has caused a fight, emotions are running high, and then, sitting down to actually have a conversation. Why was I mad? Why was my partner mad at me?
Yeah.
You know, being able to talk things through, no matter how pissed you are. Like, look, I'm talking from experience. Because initially you have this where, emotions are high, everyone's yelling and you're angry and you don't even want to talk about what just happened. Everyone goes away and cools off, and then you come back and the relationship is fine, but you haven't talked about the reason that caused that argument or the reason that caused the conflict in the first place. So what we do for every time we've had an argument literally takes less than 10 minutes. When it literally takes less than 10 minutes most of the time to just say, okay, why were you mad? Why did we just have this argument? And then listening to your partner.
Absolutely, because very often I think a lot of arguments, and again, this is directly from our own experience. We're not telling you what happens in your life, but a lot of arguments are caused by misunderstandings, right?
Yeah.
Or not very good miscommunication actually, right?
Yeah.
So it's those two in my view, misunderstanding in the more broader term or miscommunication.
Yeah.
Trust me, I would say the majority of our sort of little fights we had and arguments we had was probably due to that, right? Some person was saying something, the other one was understanding it differently, or somebody forgot something small but didn't know was very important to the other, and just like those little things. So that's why first of all to prevent it. Of course, it's tried to really establish some sort of common way of, talking to each other, being open to each other and all those sort of things. But then once sort of the argument happens, to just really for both sides, as Adanna said, go apart. So there was no problem if take your time for yourself to sort yourself out, think about what just upset me, why am I feeling this way? Then you guys can come back together and hopefully in a bit calmer way to actually talk about it, right? So this is I think a very
but talking about is tricky, because in the beginning, even when we came back to talk about it, I'm coming into the situation already thinking to myself, I'm right, you're at fault. Okay.
Yeah.
So when the
It's like
conversation,
90% of the time.
when the talking starts happening, the argument starts all over again. But I have learned, from you, I did learn that from you, to just come in, just all guards down, just listen, talk about it, listen. I felt very unhappy by the way that you handled this situation. Why did you do it that way?
Yeah.
And David explains why, and and vice versa actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then we end up saying we're sorry. Like you also have to apologize, because no matter how right you are, you still caused someone to be emotional. So I think it's important to actually be able to apologize. So a few of the important things for dealing with a conflict is just patience. So the patience to keep quiet and listen to what the other person has to say, and also that brings us to the next thing, listening, being able to listen. And the third thing will be being able to swallow your pride, because trust me, I'm sorry seems like so it's easy to say. But in an actual situation where you need to apologize, it's quite difficult.
Right, yeah,
really.
it's true.
It is quite difficult.
And also maybe lastly is be aware that this takes time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been together for a couple of years now, and some of you might be...
It's almost a decade.
And some of you probably know each other for even longer than that. So you will know those sort of establishing those sort of rules and common grounds takes time. So if you're in a maybe a new relationship, or maybe just for a year or two or something, and you're still feeling like, you know, something is still not going right, just acknowledge it and try to work with it on it with your partner. It takes time. It's not a quick thing. I think even married couple for 20 years, they still learn from each other. They still improve, let's say, on their communication. So that's me one thing. It takes time. Okay.
Yeah, but then the important thing is to be aware of it.
Yeah.
You need to be aware of what you need to change about yourself.
Very
So
true.
if you think that you're not able to handle conflicts in your relationship, you need to be aware of a few things like patience, listening, and ego, and all of those things that can make it quite difficult to solve a conflict.
That is right.
So guys, this concludes the video for today. We hope you've enjoyed watching this.
Right, yes, and we are very keen on listening and reading your comments, of course, down below, because a lot of you might agree with us on some of the questions or some of the topics, but we also know that a lot of you might disagree, and we're very, very happy to hear from you, regardless of what your opinions are. And we're also happy to, you know, have a discussion, of course, in the comments box below.
Yeah.
So,
And of course, if you do have an opinion, the way you construct it matters. So we wouldn't want any rude or abusive comments.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoyed the video, and we wish you all a great Sunday, and we hope to see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.